Good morning, folks. Well, it's Monday, the weather's perfect, so I'm going to get on with some jobs on the outside and the inside of this. We had a bit of something to think about regarding the shower, so I'm sure you really want to know about this. So this shower eventually is going to be high enough to stand up in, eventually. But it's a good shower, but it's a very, very small area. And what the guy did, who we bought it off, is he just basically threw one of these portaloos in. And can you see now how I've put it on the lip? It's standing on the lip. Well, it was just sort of in the middle, and it was just ridiculous. You couldn't possibly properly sit in there and use the toilet, and even for a shower, because you got the toilet in the way. It is just one of those things that really annoys you. Do you know what I mean? So I've made a little plinth so that the water can still get underneath and go into the plug. I can clean all this and bring it all out and clean it. I've just got to make a lip around that so that when the things go in, the toilet's not going anywhere, but it means that there's loads more space. Right, I think I've done it. We've got an old rubber mat, and we put it as a lip here that goes over it, look, so it goes over it by 1 inch. So that is going absolutely nowhere in transit, nowhere. But it means it's over this lip here, which is way out of the way. See, it means there's loads more room to have a shower, like so. Plenty of room for a shower, loads of room. You can even sit down and have a shower anyway. And Mandy's going to have to move them because I'm not pulling that up, but there's plenty of room to do what you must do. Good morning, everyone. Oh, the sheep. Okay, we'll have to go round. We'll have to go all the way around, Jess. Well, I thought we'd try and get the geese today. Some wildlife on the camera. There's not been an awful lot to film on these walks in this last almost 2 months, and it's just been down to the weather's been terrible, just raining and raining and raining. So I've left off filming on the walks. Nobody wants to see mud and drizzle, but today my grandma used to call it an Indian summer. As when you get summer in autumn. So we're just going into autumn, and it's a glorious day, not a breath of wind. So it's lovely. Just wanted to talk for a few minutes about future possible vaccinations and lockdowns. There's been murmurings now for a while, and there's 1 or 2 murmurings starting in our country. It's interesting because right at the beginning of this pandemic that seems to still be in some ways, there was a British doctor who, right at the very beginning, when none of us are really sure what was going on, I was listening to him on YouTube. Very sensible, pragmatic kind of a man, certainly not into any kind of conspiracies. He was adamant that the best way out of this pandemic was through the vaccinations, and I listened to him, I listened to what he got to say. Like I say, he was very sensible, but as time has rolled on, I sort of tuned into him about 18 months after his initial reactions, and he's completely done a U-turn. Completely. Just wanted to mention a film documentary. I think many of you may have already seen this. It's called What is a Woman? What is a Woman? Richard sent me a link for it weeks and weeks ago. I've never got round to seeing it, and it's just one of them that you've just got to see. You have to see. If there's anything that shows the utter and complete lunacy, the insanity and the devilishness of the transgender movement, it's that film, What is a Woman? It's an interview. It's basically this guy going around to different places asking one simple question: what is a woman? But he does it in such a gentle way. He is an absolute gentleman. He's very, very patient, very, very calm, and it's this that leaves people feeling so vulnerable. Actually, he kind of does it the way that you see Christ working in the Gospels, asking questions, and it just leaves people very vulnerable because they have to think through what it is that they believe in, and they realize, you can see in their eyes, that what they believe in is insane. So I really was massively blessed. There's one point in this documentary. I'm going to try, if it's not on this, it's because YouTube won't let me put it up. But there's one point where he gets 60 seconds to speak to this lobby of people, very powerful people that are pushing this whole thing, and it just reminded me of the words of Jesus, you know, when you stand before them. Now clearly this man had planned what he was going to say, of course he had, but the weight, heavenly weight behind him is incredible, and it kind of ties in with what we're going to be looking at final session on Sunday morning, when we look at the Jubilee, the final Jubilee. There's many, many Jubilees throughout life, so many, it's unbelievable. So many times the Lord in the background is blessing us and setting us free, and so many times this Father is looking after his dear children, most of which we know nothing about. But there comes a final Jubilee at the end of all this. Some of us call the rapture. You know, the word in Greek is harpazo, and that's where it begins. And we're going to be looking at what happens at the rapture and what follows immediately. And we're going to look at how this Jubilee is going to affect this planet. But these people, folks, as much power as they have right now, whoa, they're not going to get away with it.
They tried to muzzle me by not allowing me to speak. And when that didn't work, they tried to muzzle me with a mask.
I would thank you all for allowing me to speak to you tonight, but you tried not to allow it, yet here I am. Now, you only give us 60 seconds, so let me get to the point. You are all child abusers. You prey upon impressionable children and indoctrinate them into your insane ideological cult, a cult which holds many fanatical views, but none so deranged as the idea that boys are girls and girls are boys. By imposing this vile nonsense on students to the point even of forcing young girls to share locker rooms with boys, You deprive these kids of safety and privacy and something more fundamental too, which is truth. If education is not grounded in truth, then it is worthless. Worse, it is poison. You are poison. You are predators. I can see why you try to stop us from speaking. You know that your ideas are indefensible. You silence the opposing side because you have no argument. You can only hide under your beds like pathetic little gutless cowards hoping we shut up and go away, but we won't. I promise you that.
So this is what I came to see, folks. Here they are. Here's just one set of them. Aren't they beautiful? They come over our camper now every night. That in the background there is a marquee for a wedding that's going up. There'll be a big celebration shortly. There'll be fireworks, and they hire out this field. It's very impressive. So if you can see, they look like triangles. They're teepees. They're the top teepees that you can get. And yeah, there'll be a big wedding there. Well, we know there's a big wedding coming. And just like these geese, they're just beginning to prepare for a very big journey. That's what's going to happen, folks. It's time to prepare, time to practice, time to stretch your wings. They're waiting, folks. It's a waiting game. And then at a certain time during the night, they go. I don't know if you can see this. To the right of the church, you'll see a massive telescope. That's called Jodrell Bank. That used to be the biggest radio telescope in the world. There was a guy that retired from there. He wrote a book called The Eerie Silence, because in all the years he worked there, he never had so much as a blip of alien activity. And all of a sudden, the news is full of evidence of aliens coming to this earth. So as a kid, I used to bike there all the time. I was fascinated by that place. It's a flat bike ride. These are the Cheshire Plains. It's easy. Looks a lovely way of life, folks, doesn't it? The grass is always greener on the other side. I spoke a little bit last week in the midweek on radio, and the fact that radio will have a revival. There will be a revival of people using radio. It's already happening a little bit, but it's going to happen more. The thing to look for, one of the things to look for if you've got a radio, is whether it's got a short wave. Some radios you can't tune into short wave. Short wave is very interesting. Sometimes I listen to it at night, and you're picking up stuff from literally all over the planet, and there's no way of shutting it down. You know, there are literally thousands of wave bands and frequencies that are empty at the moment because of everything's online. But there are people, Christians even now, beginning to put services up. And I know in America this has been a big thing for a long time, but beginning to put services up again, going back to putting services up on radio. And you may think, well, why? Well, because they're planning for the future. They're getting ready, and that's what I'm trying to say. You know, it might not make sense right now, but it will one day. Now, just a little tip, folks, concerning radio. If you've got a radio with shortwave, you can tune into on shortwave. Just a little tip: if you get a crocodile clip and you attach it to a piece of wire, preferably 40 feet, 50 feet long piece of wire. You send a piece of wire outside, and basically there's many things you can do with it, but either you can either put it in a loop on the ground or you can send it up in the air. Experiment. You will get a exponentially and infinitely better reception, and then you can tune in to shortwave. Shortwave bounces, oh, so beautiful. I don't know if you saw that, hopefully you did. Shortwave bounces off the atmosphere, so it's kind of like, do you ever remember the game Breakout in the 1980s, where when the ball goes through to the other side, it bounces, goes like that, and then comes back down. Shortwave bounces off the atmosphere, and it allows it to travel around the globe. So it's very useful, and we're spoilt now with digital radio and all these things and the internet, but it's something to keep an eye on because it's very, very inexpensive, and it's a way of listening in to what's going on. When you understand that it's a way of listening into what's going on if the media has been taken over with an agenda and you want to know what's going on. Get your old radios out again. It might take you a while to tune in to something worthwhile. Do your research, have a look on the internet, do your research on radio, shortwave, but you'll find that there are some very informative channels that, if people start to get cancelled in a big way, you can still find out what's going on. Lots of boats in at the moment. I just realised the other day going past here, our little mooring is stuck between two boats. One is Patience. One is Patience, but the name of the other one is really interesting. There's our humble little mooring. Do you ever think that golf is a strange game? I mean, I suppose all games are pretty strange. It's amazing how many games have a ball, a sphere, at the centre of the game. You know, this sphere that gets knocked about here, there and everywhere seems to be the central objective, is to make that sphere, that ball, go somewhere. I'm beginning to really lose interest in, even in football, and that was the only sport I've ever really been that bothered about. I can just see it's just been swallowed up. It's not a working class sport anymore. It's not an honest sport. These football players are being paid astronomical amounts of money, you know, 5, 6, 7 times more than people that run governments. And whatever you think about people that run governments, they're under intense pressure, you know, whether they got it right or not. You know, when a surgeon is paid a tiny fraction of what a football player is paid, you just think, what is going on this planet? But the Arabs are just buying up players now and offering them £700,000 a week to go over and play in their league, and top players are leaving, and it's just the love of money. I mean, how much money can a person have? I just don't get it. I really don't get it. You know, you think if these players, even kind of Division 2 or something, or 1, are on £25,000 a week, and of course they think that's terrible. You got players that can't even get onto the team. that are on £350,000 a week. It's insane. It's just insane. The world is going nuts. Completely and utterly crazy. And my dad always, my dad likes golf. I have a love-hate relationship with golf. Mainly hate. But my dad always used to say, golf is a good walk spoilt. And pretty much I agree with him. You know, it's a lovely, all the greens are so well kept and they are so lush and lovely. And then you go and whack the ball and it hits a tree and you lose points and you drop a ball. And I just think we at the moment, we've got too much time on our hands. We've got too much money. People aren't happy, anything but happy. And we are overdue for something that will, in the words of Klaus Schwab, will reset the planet. So this one here is called Just Us. Can you imagine if it was just us? I mean, sometimes, you know, I think, oh, wouldn't it be nice to just go and travel and do this and do that, but would it really? If it was just you and your wife, or you and your husband, would it really be paradise, or would you start to ultimately get on one another's nerves? Hello. Good, thank you. You enjoying yourself?
Yeah.
You know what David said once? Oh, that I had the wings of a dove to fly away. You can't fly away if you're called to the battlefield, can you? I used to love rope swings when I was a kid, and this is the perfect, I can see it's the perfect place for a rope swing. See that there, folks? That's a rope swing that they've cut. They've cut that rope swing because they deem it to be dangerous, that kids might fall and hurt themselves, right? The same people that cut rope swings because they're dangerous for kids are allowing transvestites to come into primary school lessons and teach kids about what it is to be a transvestite. Swing right out, swing back. We used to play a game called knifey, where we'd put a knife in the floor and then the next person would have to swing out, swing back, pick up the knife, swing out, swing back and put the knife in the ground in a more difficult position. And then, you know, it was a competition who could win it. It was brilliant. They love Jessie on this golf course, you know. They just love to see her. They all just shout, oh look, it's Jessie again. They just love a dog on a golf course. Where's his ball? Where's his ball? He's not happy. Not happy at all. And I'm going to go past them shortly with the dog. There they are, look. It's all very tense. Passive aggression just kicking off in every direction. Got the undulation quite wrong there. That looked good from this angle, but it could be miles off. They won't be happy about this, folks, because this is what matters. Forget about the world, forget about the suffering, forget about the wars, forget about the sin and the aggression and the spiralling economy. What matters is your scorecard at the end of 18 holes. Do you know, my dad actually once got told off playing golf for whistling. He's a milkman, right? Milkmen always whistle. In the morning on the milk round they whistle. Everybody in Congleton knew John Leach's whistle in the milk in the morning, and he got really told off for whistling on the golf course, because that's not the decorum, you know. You don't whistle on golf courses, folks. There's a code of practice. There's a certain way of dressing, and whistling is unacceptable. Okay folks, well, the harvest is almost in. I think it's all in apart from maize. Maize is the only thing left to come in. Look at these horses. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Well, you know, when I say I was brought up, I'm talking about school, primary school, back in the late 70s. You were brought up to give thanks, to thank the Lord for all He's done. As we move into harvest time, that's exactly what I want to do, is thank the Lord for all He's done to get, this is a corny phrase, but an attitude of gratitude. However corny it is, it's still right. We should be thankful for all that He's done. See this, the harvest is in. It was looking really, what they've got out of that harvest, I don't know. This was oats and it wasn't looking good at all. But at least they got it in. At least they got it in all these fields now. It was mainly oats for some reason, a little bit of barley, hardly any wheat this year whatsoever. And the only thing left to come in is maize. Okay folks, finally, just before we wrap this video up, I just want to talk about something that's been on my heart now for, well, maybe a couple of months. And that is, I'm beginning to see people that way back 20 years ago were fizzing for Jesus. They were on fire for Jesus. They were busy for the Lord. They were full of optimism. And I'm beginning to see, when I went down to Bournemouth, I bumped into people that I hadn't seen for a long, long time. Wonderful, godly, beautiful people. Really A1, top class people that I remember what they were like. And some of them I haven't seen for a long time. And I looked and I could see this kind of weariness, almost this resignation in their eyes that the church isn't just the way it is. And we can all understand that to some degree. Who would have ever thought within such a short space of time we'd reach a point where the church itself is believing things which are blasphemous to God, which are abhorrent to a holy God. But we've reached that point. In Daniel it talks about the grinding down of the saints, that making them feel weary. I remember looking at some people and thinking, is this how it ends? Lord, is this how it ends for this person? Is this how it ends for this person? Is this how it ends for this person? Just a kind of a fading away. And I know this sounds crazy, folks, but for some people in this world, in this body, that is how it ends. And I thank God for people that got hold on me after the Sunday morning service word that they can identify with that. That there comes a point where the body starts to degrade, the body starts to pack up. Why? Because it's getting ready for its final emancipation. It's getting ready for its final deliverance. The seed must go into the ground and die before resurrection comes. And I just want to say to people that are beginning to feel weary, and I know there are, and that might be you. We pray for you. We pray that God will set you free. We all need it. There's nobody that doesn't need it. Sunday morning we're going to look at that final emancipation, that final jubilee, that final trumpet, when it will look like so many people have fallen so short of what their call in this life was to do. The God that called you in the beginning, that's seen you through so many mountains and valleys, is the God that's going to call you and rapture you at the very end. So do not grow weary of doing good. Because, and this is it, because your labour in the Lord is not in vain. Only a few months ago, these massive plants here, this maize, were tiny, tiny, tiny potential blades coming out of this field. You could see in every direction. Now I can't see anything apart from that church straight up ahead. And that's our life. I don't think we see, I don't think we do, but the fruit is coming. You see, I don't know whether you can see, I don't want to bend one of these plants, but look, you can see the fruit is coming. Your labour in the Lord is not in vain. The fruit's hidden right now, but one day it will become evident and people will see the fruit. God bless you, whatever you're going through. God bless you. If you are feeling so sick that you're feeling guilty, that you're not feeling God, God bless you. God bless you. God be with you. The Lord bless you. The Lord keep you. The Lord cause His face to shine upon you and give you peace. This is my little doggy. She never goes any further than 20 feet from there and stops. Waits for me to call her across the road. I wish I was that obedient with the Lord.